on, scoot a little closer, don't be shy. Okay. You don't want to come closer, Tom? You want to stay there? It's a funny joke. So, because I have 1 hour, I thought I'll do prerequisites for the things we're gonna do tomorrow. Because I know quite some people here, but I'm not sure about the overall level. So I wanna make sure that you have everything set that we need tomorrow. Because we're gonna do the integration of leg entanglements and wrestle ups. So how you combine those. Because that is the current no-gi guard meter. It is wrestling up and it is entering into legs. That's what no-gi guard is about right now. That may change in the future, but we need to go with it. Otherwise we will be left behind, right? And I just want to make sure that you can do fundamental shots and that you can do fundamental leg entanglements. I can give you loads of extras. So if you are bored, just tell me and I'll give you some things to work on. But make sure that the things I'm gonna show are perfectly in, okay? Be really, really adamant about that. The good thing about wrestle ups, especially the shots, is it tends to teach people how to shoot properly. So people are not as afraid to shoot into someone because they are already on the floor. The impact is not as high. You only need to wrestle up. You don't need to level change that much. So it makes everything a little easier for people, right? And of course, the two most fundamental shots we have are the double leg and the single leg. The single leg is one of the best multi-tools in the whole sport. You can do it from everywhere, right? So keep that in mind. You want to develop a good single leg. You just want to have it in your toolbox because it's such a good multi-tool, right? So we're going to start real fundamental and do penetration steps into a double leg shot against someone who has a broken stance. So I have Will here, who doesn't need to be afraid because it's a shot, not to choke or hold or anything, right? So a broken stance is he's going to stand parallel for me. His elbows are a little bit to the outside, so I can easily get the inside space. And he wants to still dip down in the hip a little. If he doesn't do it, I'm gonna shoot my shoulder in his nuts. Okay, so don't be here and get like straighten up a little. Do you see that? You don't want that. So bend down in the hip, right? So I can get the chest bump, right? Don't forget that, it's important for most people. Okay, so feel free to just eat it if you want to, but I don't advise it, right? So if we do double leg penetration steps, you wanna go by the line of his feet. So I want to penetrate in behind that line. If you don't do that, you have a distance issue. So if I drop my knee here, you see I'm way too far away. So people compensate and lean forward, and that's where they're gonna get swallowed out, right? We don't want that. So what we do is we pick one side, pick your favorite side. It's totally fine for the moment. I'm gonna place my heel forward. And while I heist up forward, I'm pulling myself into position. Do you see that the penetration step itself moved him? That's what I'm aiming at, right? The second step you're gonna take, not to the front. So you don't wanna be here. This is good for pushing this way or changing to an angle. If you want to change to an angle, this is fine. If you're not changing to an angle, this is terrible. Because he can just hip bump me this way and I'm gonna fall off really easily, right? So I don't wanna do that. I wanna get into one straight line. And you see that my hip is dipped down a little. I don't wanna extend too soon because then he can move me backwards a little better. Right? I don't want to do that either. So when we're here and I'm using my shot, I move it and I move in one straight line. You see that my shoulder and my knee are in one straight line, but my hip is a little back. This is important. If you're here, you're overextending. You don't want that. You want to be here. Have a tight tilt in your head. My head is up, my chest is up. I sling around the knees and I pull the knees towards me. So if he wants to start sprawling now, he cannot do that. If I can get in a shot that deep, you shouldn't get sprawled out at all, if you know how to put pressure. And we've talked about regulated tension. It's the same thing. You need to pull towards you as much as you need to for him to not be able to sprawl out, right? So now let's talk about the hand salute. When I start moving up, I can reach and pull myself in to the shot. This gives you more leverage, right? So when we're here, I can just slingshot myself into position and sneak around a little better. You see how much balance you lost there? Keep a little bit out of balance for a second. Now I'm going to pull in again and see if he can sprawl. No. All right, that's it. That's all you do, right? So if you can't do that, you need to start practicing it a little faster. A shot is not a slow movement. The slower the shot, the better the timing and the setup has to be, right? So you want to practice shots quick as soon as you've got the motion down. Like get the motion down, do it in one continuous motion, and then add speed to it. If you feel real comfortable, you can do sliding or blasting shots. What I mean by that is, you see how far away I am? I should be able to penetrate myself into it and generate power, right? So when you first practice it, like this should be enough. And we're here in position. But as soon as that works, I want to be a little further away and see if I can shoot in. That's the motion you want to get, right? And if you can do that, you get a lot of momentum out of your shots, and your takedowns will be way easier, just because you're breaking his position way better with that kind of shot than to just slowly moving in. It's just physics, right? But do it slowly. At first, get every step right, and take a look at your own position to see if everything is correct. Your partner is helping you, right? So if I make mistakes, he can adjust my position a little, right? Especially at the end of the shot. So Phil does the shot. So we're here, he shoots in, and he has position. Did you see what he did? He moved his foot forward, but his hip angle adjusted. So now he has the position he wanted to have, right? If he would not have done that, and if we would have been here and he would have trailed the leg a little further, this happens. You don't want that, right? You always want to be in alignment. Okay, just this. Just get a good shot, get good regulated tension into it, and then pick up the speed if you can. Any questions regarding this? Go. I want you to finish, but I want you to come up. If you can do finishes, by all means you can practice them. But it's important that you try to come up as fast as possible. We don't want to stay there, okay? So if I have Miller here, I'm gonna do the same shot, keep a bend in the hip so it can penetrate a little harder without busting his balls, right? So when we're here and I penetrate in, I don't want to stay here, right? I bring my leg a little closer, I don't just step, bring it a little closer, and push off the leg. While I push off the leg, my head pushes and this pulls out, right? And this one steps besides his knee if I can. So when we're here, I push off. This one is base. This one is beside his knee. And this gives me the drop instantly, right? You cannot always get it, but if you can, it makes everything easy. And if you can't, I'm gonna show what to do at the end of the class. So, when we're here, I shoot into position, and I come up right away. And that's all I need. Have this one up, your head is up, I have good posture, and I could run him down. If I get this, it makes everything easier. If I don't get it, I'm just staying here and making a couple of steps. I can't do those steps if I have knee position, because he's going to. Does that make sense for you? So, what will happen to a couple of people is, you will get up and leave the head down and move the butt up. This can never happen. You always need to be here. All right? So, is this the only way? No. Like some people, when they're here, they prefer to get an angle and run people through that way. All nice variations, but for the beginning, this is a good one to just get into the motion of it, because it's less work. If I need to cut the corner a little, that's an extra motion, which is great and it has a couple of advantages, but for the beginning, it's one step more. And if you don't need to take that, don't do it, especially if you're not comfortable with shots. All right? So it's not about the takedown, it's about coming as seemingly as possible. Don't do it with a break. It doesn't need to be quick, but you need to come up right away. Gotcha? Go.
Yeah, because you can only go forward and back. Your foot is going to go that way.
Some of you dip down. Don't do it. Because you want to get under the arms, and that's why you dip down and come back up. And the problem with that is if you do it with resistance, you end up getting sprawled out when you dip down, right? If you're really good, you can do that if you're 100% sure that you can get your posture back after. So you see that with elite wrestlers quite a lot. Like they're like this, Zaitsev is a good example. But when he goes, he's like, boom, here. And as long as you don't have the capability to do that, and trust me, none of you has, including myself, because we're not wrestlers of that caliber, just hold your position. Just don't change it, okay? I know what you feel, like you want to get under there. The arm is in your way. That's why we have setups, so we don't have to renegade our own position, okay? So it's not about setups today. If you feel comfortable, you can add some, if it's intelligent, but make sure that the shot itself is good. The problem about shots is it's a complicated movement. It's not easy. And now you're supposed to do that with resistance right from the get-go. It's no wonder that it doesn't work out, right? And one of the things that's way harder in wrestling than on the ground is finding the right timing. Because we're dynamic, we're both standing, no one's sitting on our bottom. So the timing has to be way, way better. You need to grip, set up, go. There can't be any breaks. That's what tends to be hard. And here it's a little easier because he's high up and I'm already down. So get comfortable with that. Like I did those in my gym, and even the beginners that never did standing shots are doing standing shots. Because they just come down, level change, and they shoot. It makes people more comfortable. So it's a good reason to just do it for that reason alone, okay? Now, the second one is the single leg, right? So for the single leg, he needs to have one foot in front, but he's still in his broken stance, he's still dipped down, right? So when we're here, dip down a little further. It's the same thing, just that my foot comes to the outside. You can outside reach, but at the beginning, go with an inside reach and pull yourself in. It's a little harder to escape for him, right? Because we are not standing, I cannot follow as easily. And with the inside reach, it's harder for him to pull the foot away this way. If he pulls it away this way, it's no problem, right? But if I go here and he pulls it away, like that's hard, and it's hard for me to follow because I'm not standing. But if I go here, like where's you want to go? There? Doesn't make any sense, right? And you pull yourself into position the same way as you did before. You're really pulling yourself up here, pulling yourself up here. This time your head comes to the inside and the other hand slingshots around. The knee wants to be behind his heel if you can make it. For that matter, it's important that your foot is out a little. If it's too close, you cannot do that, right? So it's out, I pull myself up, I bring my head to the inside, the second one goes through, and I bring my knee behind his leg. So it's way harder to squat. Do you see the same posture I had in the double here? It's one straight line. I'm up here, my hands are extended, and that's the position. Right? If he wants to scroll, it's going to be really hard because my leg is in the way. I pull everything tight towards me. Don't come here. Okay? There's some reasons for it, but generally I prefer locked hands. It makes everything more efficient. Okay, that's how John Smith does it. There's many great wrestlers and Jiu-Jitsu guys as well, for that matter, that prefer it with closed arms. Like, if you want my reasons for it, ask me later, because I'm not sure we have enough time to put everything in otherwise. But if you're curious, just ask me and I'll give you plenty of reasons. Okay, so it's the same thing. This leg is forward. Foot to the outside, inside reach. Head to the inside, penetrate with the knee, right? And while you slingshot around, you bring the second arm in position. And you just switch hips. And it's the same thing here. Now fall back and do it on the other side. It's the same thing. In position. For this one, do both sides right from the get-go. There's some techniques that we don't necessarily need to do on both sides, for the most part. This is not one of them. You need to be really good on one side and you need to be competent enough on the other side. So practice it right from the get-go, unless you really cannot make it work on your good side. But as soon as it's okay, do it on both sides, and then it's your partner's turn. And he looks after my posture after the shot. He looks at my knee position. Is it behind the heel? He looks at my hand position. He looks at my body count position, my foot position. Everything needs to be in place. Okay, check that out before you disengage. You get what I'm saying? Good. Go. About the position we're in right now, and it's the exact same thing with the double leg, is that you need to lean into people. When do we need to lean into people? There was a question, someone has to answer.
For the finish.
For the finish, if I want to get out, not before, because I'm destroying my own position. I'll give you two examples, double leg and single leg, right? So when we're here, I'm in good position, I'm here. You see I have the bend in my hip, it's one straight line. I don't want to be here, and I don't want to fall forward into him, or sideways into him for that matter at the moment. Because what happens is when we're here and I fall into him, he's going to move his legs back and he starts sprawling, and I lose my position. Good. And we end up here. So now, stay back. Now I have to knee slide and do all those kind of things to get into position. And we're here. And see, if he tries to move back now, I am holding my own weight. If I lean into him and he moves away, he moves me away with him. That's not what we're trying to do. And it's the exact same thing with the single leg. See, when we're here, I have good knee position. I'm pulling this in. You see the bend in my hip? It's one straight line between my shoulder and my knee again. And I pull it in, he tries to sprawl, he's not gonna go anywhere. Now, if I lean into him, see what happens. And now we need to adjust. So leaning into people is for getting up, not for the position itself. And you need to time that correctly. So shoot in and then do your motion, right? Don't do everything at the same time, it gets stretched out. Okay, that's why we do it in steps. So it's the same thing. Now if we want to move up, that's when I lean into it. So I do the shot, nothing changed. We're here, I have good position, right? And now, see, he tries to sprawl, nothing happens, I'm here. Now I push off and push into him to get my step. And now I'm neutral again. I'm not leaning onto him. I'm here into this position. And you see, I have long arms. Try to pummel your leg up. Pummel your leg up. That's one of the reasons. This is just hanging. If I try to hang here, that's a huge difference, right? So be efficient. John Smith is, well, compared to us, a strong human being, but compared to other wrestlers, he's not strong. He's just technical. That's why he uses this. And I think it's way better. And I think it exposes elbows way less than this. So now I gave you a couple of reasons, even though I said I don't want to, right? Ask me later, but there you go. So, it's the same thing. One continuous motion and everything is fine. No breaks in between. It doesn't need to be quick. It just needs to be correct. It's a huge difference. And as soon as you get it correct, try to increase the speed. Good? Go. Head position is important. Just like the position of my hip, knee, and shoulder, while I control, it's important that you differentiate between controlling the single standing and finishing mechanics, okay? What I mean by that is, if Ville has the single, and he has chest to chest contact to my thigh, and his head is low, it's not a good position. He needs to pressure down with the shoulder, slash the chest for the finish, not for the control. Move up and bring it here. I cannot scroll anywhere. What should I do? I cannot put weight on him, right? And if he wants to finish, he comes down and pressures. Right? But he isn't there if he's not running the pipe or going for another finish. He stays high up, so I can't break his posture. And the body lock is really near from you as well, right? So if you don't feel comfortable with the single from there, like if you're up here and I'm trying to fix it, it's just gonna pass on, and we're here. And now we have that fight. All of that comes from good position, right? He's down here, and he tries to body lock. And you see, I wasn't athletic or anything. Okay, get good head position. Don't be here. Come up. There's one more good thing about straightening the arms, because you can actually move your head up to a position where it's hard to bring weight onto. Good. Do it a couple more times. Go. Is everybody familiar with Ashi? Or single leg X, whatever you want to call it. Yes, yes, yes?
Yes.
Okay, now then my question would be, can every one of you break the hip down from there well, with simple mechanics? Okay, so we start in a gravity drill, right? Shoulder line, one knee in, one knee out. Like most of you have done that, right? Like a rocking chair. Hip up, the knee, rotate a little. The knee, the inside of the knee is on the inside of my ankle bone. And from here, I need to unbalance him by pointing my knees out, bridging a little bit on the shoulder. You see he needed to step. From here, I come back, kick him forward, get the second leg, and now I can sit him down because I have that really good control. Does everybody know this drill? No. Okay, so what you do is you do it and you do it well. And if you do it well, you can say, Dennis, can you take a look at it? And if it's good, I'll give you an extra. If it's rubbish, you need to practice more. Is that a deal? You want to see it again, or does it work out for you that way? I'll show it. So, you're here, one knee in, one foot out. Hip up. So you have this position. This one is straight hamstring. You don't want to be here, right? Now, move this one out this direction and move this one out this direction. And see that unbalances it. And if you go into base properly, proper base. And if you do that correctly, you can sit it down, right? You should be able to do that mechanic, but sometimes you can just not get him down. So what you do is you bring him back. Now you have both legs. Cannot do anything anymore. Same mechanics, you just sit him back down. All right? So do that. Come up, it's your partner's turn. You can do your favorite side. And if that works well, do the other side as well, of course. Okay, because that's one of the things you need to be able to do both sides decently again. Okay, if it doesn't work out at all, do one side, you know what I mean. But if you can, practice both sides. And put in a high volume, because we want to connect this. Okay? Do you get what I'm saying? Good, go. Because I want you to be good enough at it that we can combine it, but of course that needs a little bit of work with some people, but as I said, it's good enough for the start, okay? Because now we're gonna go into Ashi, or into an Ashi pull, off of single leg and double leg wrestle ups. If you cannot bring people to the ground, you can use that, come back up. And tomorrow, we will put a lot of context around it and go off from there. So at the end of the day, you hopefully know how to combine wrestle ups and leg entanglements with each other very well. Because one defense oftentimes gives you the other. So you can go really, really deep into the rabbit hole, but I wanted to give you an overview tomorrow. And I just wanted to make sure that you can do those things, because then we don't have to do it tomorrow and we can go into the connections a little more, right? So, rabbit. And he's parallel. It's a double shot, right? So now, I shoot in, and I come up. I can't get the knee position. Like I feel I can't bring him down. I'm just gonna block, walk back into position, and go up into Ashi. Right, and everything's fine. Parallel again. Now, good stance. Very good. See, what did we say about going over the center line? Exposes the side, right? Going over the center line. Exposes the side, right? Because people are not gonna stand like that. It's not gonna happen, right? So, open up. So we're here. Rack. We're here. 2-on-1. He grabs me. Like all kinds of options you have, right? But if you have problems, just do the shot itself. Come up. I can't get any position. Like I can barely get him up. I just pull back into Ashi. Everything is fine. Single leg shot. So we hear he has a proper stance. He's defending his leg with his forward hand, like he's supposed to. It opens up. It opens up. Hand fighting is universal. Exceptions. Okay? So, if you have problems, just do it without him. You hear, come up. Like you cannot bring him down. Because you have long arms, it's really easy for you to take a step and bring it to the outside. If I'm here, it's not possible, right? But if we're here, I can just use an inside step, bring it up, and of course I could go into double legs with heads to the side or cartwheels with head to the inside. That's an option. But I can also block, walk in, and go into Ashi. Right? As long as I have legs on the outside, I get to have inside position, I can enter into Ashi. So that's what you're gonna do. You do a double shot, you have problems bringing them down, you go into Ashi. You do a single shot, you have problems bringing them down, you go into Ashi. And you have one connection of wrestle ups, or wrestling shots in general for that matter, going into leg entanglements. And you can play that off each other. Tomorrow we're gonna dig deeper into that, but play around with it. If you feel comfortable, you can use setups for your shots, which you will sooner or later need to use because people are in a proper stance. But if you can't do the shot itself, that doesn't matter. Because if you're gonna get in, you're gonna get mauled right away anyways. So get familiar with the shot itself, with the finishes, then you can worry about the setups. Good? Everybody knows what he's or she's supposed to do. Go. Later. Questions? Does it make sense for you why that is important? Good. That's a start. as long as you're not lying. So what we're gonna do now is one isolation round because the next class is gonna start at 6:30 anyway, so we have a little extra time. But I still am gracious enough to give you a break in between the sessions, so we will not do half the hour. Okay? But at least I want to do one isolation round with you. So what we're going to do is, if I have Billy here, is the first thing about the isolation round is I have open hands, but I'm down here. And now I move this leg forward, parallel stance, this leg forward, and he needs to time his shot, depending on how I stand. If I'm parallel, he wants to double. If I'm lead leg with one side, he wants that single on that lead leg side, just for the entry. So if you are better, you can use hand fighting to get that. Okay, but just if you're there. If you're not there, just pay attention to how people stand and do the correct shot for the stance that your partner is giving you. Okay, if you feel better, do it with a setup. So now it is, you either finish the shot or can't and take Ashi. So your partner is supposed to give you enough resistance that you can go the way with least resistance. Is the shot harder or the takedown? You go gut pull into Ashi. If the shot is really easy, you just finish the shot with whatever you're capable of doing from there, right? But the shot itself needs to be dangerous enough that you get a reaction that makes it easy for you to pull. If you know more, or your partner knows more, you can do more stuff. You can get a little bit creative with those things, right? Because you can go off with the single, switch to a double, it doesn't work, and pull into Ashi then. So it's 1, 2, 3, not 1, 2, right? From the double, you can go back single if you want. It doesn't work, bring the leg to the outside and go into Ashi again. So you can combine all those things together if you're there. 2 minutes each. Short feedback after. Everybody gets what I'm saying? Okay, go. Okay, so Sven and I had a short discussion about multi-directional pulls, right? Just like the takedowns itself, which are multi-directional, so is the pull. So you can pull in different directions. This is the first one that I feel is the easiest to learn at the beginning. But you can pull the other leg. You can pull the same leg, but go forward. You have different options, right? Just like with takedowns. You need to work multi-directional to be able to finish those moves. But this is a good start for the beginning. And maybe tomorrow we will go into different pull directions. Okay, because you already can do that, you can play around with it a little bit. Okay? Any questions? Good, quick picture.
Hockey? No, baby boots.
Okay.
Sorry.
Looks like he's getting his pictures on.
Yep.
Thank you guys.